If you liked the video, feel free to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. This video is how to build an Adeptus Custodes Solar Spearhead list. Solar Spearhead lists look much different than any other detachment for the Adeptus Custodes, even the mighty lines of the Emperor. It is the best detachment for our vehicle walker units. No other detachment comes close to the vehicle support as the Solar Spearhead. If you want to run Custodes Dreadnoughts, Solar Spearhead is the detachment for you. We will take a look at the Solar Spearhead playstyle, the detachment rules, unit roles, top units for each unit role, the list for the Solar Spearhead using our unit roles for 2,000, 1,500, and 1,000 point games. Let's start with the Solar Spearhead playstyle. Solar Spearhead has an even more stat check kind of playstyle, with some things that make it more unique and fun compared to a 3-blade champion and wardens list in other detachments. Solar Spearhead can have some very fast dreadnoughts with some incredible anti-tank shooting from our other vehicles. Our dreadnoughts do not have a lot of attacks in melee, but they hit hard. Not the best against large units or hordes, but great for taking out medium or elite infantry. The total objective control of a Solar Spearhead list is not that high. Movement and target priority will be keys to victory. Force the opponent to engage the dreadnoughts. The detachment rule gives the dreadnoughts extra speed, move through terrain, fight on death, advance and charge, or even some extra OC. The dreadnoughts feel like the basic troops of a Solar Spearhead detachment. The Adeptus Custodes vehicles get the most rule support in this detachment. If you really like the Custodes dreadnoughts and vehicles, Solar Spearhead is the detachment for you. Now let's take a look at the rules for the Solar Spearhead detachment. First, we'll take a look at the Adeptus Custodes army rule, Martial Kata, where in the fight phase you can select either one of these stances. Dakatari stance, melee weapons will have sustain hits 1, or Rendex stance, melee weapons will have the lethal hits ability. Martial Kata may not be the most exciting rule in the game, it sure is effective though. Our units already hit on a 2+, throw sustain hits 1 in there to never miss on average. Lethal hits to tear apart monster and vehicles in combat. Adeptus Custodes are still one of the hardest hitting melee factions in the game. All the Adeptus Custodes vehicles have the Martial Kata ability, from our Dreadnoughts to the Land Raider, all know the Custodes Karate. This detachment rule has a lot of moving parts. First up we have Auric Armor. While Adeptus Custodes vehicle unit from your army is at starting strength, unless that unit is an aircraft or battle shocked, add 2 to the objective control of models in that unit. We also have while Adeptus Custodes vehicle from your army is below starting strength, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, reroll a hit roll of 1. The last part of Auric Armor, while Adeptus Custodes vehicle unit from your army is below half strength, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, reroll a hit roll of 1 and reroll a wound roll of 1. The other part of the detachment rule, Moratory Ancients, add 2 to the move characteristic of models in Adeptus Custodes walker units from your army and add 1 to the advance and charge rolls made for such units. We can also give 2 of our Custodes walker units in our army the character keyword. Those 2 character dreadnoughts can be the bearer of enhancements, as well as be selected as our warlord. The extra OC is nice on the dreads to help steal objectives. Once the vehicles are below starting strength, they get much more reliable. Grav tanks become very reliable with reroll hits of 1. The Twin Arachnus Blaze Cannons already have lethal hits into monster and vehicles with twin linked. All of our dreadnoughts hit on a 2+, so reroll hit rolls of 1 makes them very reliable too. Unlike the Telamon Dreadnought, the Contemptor Dreadnoughts do not have a degraded or damaged profile. No matter the wounds remaining, they will hit on a 2+. The 2+ movement brings the Telamon's base 8-inch movement up to a 10-inch movement. An average 3-inch advance plus 1 from the detachment rule brings the Telamon up to 14-inch movement when advancing. Then if we use an advance and charge stratagem, Relentless Persecution, for an average 7-inch charge plus 1 from the detachment rule, the Telamon will have a 22-inch average charge range. Any Contemptors in the list will have an average 20-inch charge range. These dreadnoughts are very fast in this detachment. On to the 4 Solar Spearhead enhancements. Our first enhancement is Adamantine Talisman, Adeptus Custodes model only. Improve the attacks, strength, and damage of melee weapons equipped by the bearer by 1. 2 of the enhancements are good, the other 2 not so much. Adamantine Talisman is one of the good ones. It can be put on any Custodes character to boost their melee damage. Blade champions are a good target if we want to bring infantry in our list. The Telemons and Venerable Contemptors with this enhancement would have 6 attacks, Strength 13, AP 2, Damage 3. The Aculus will go up to 6 attacks, Strength 13, AP 2, Damage D6 plus 2. Finally, the Galatus is a fun choice with 9 attacks, Strength 9, AP 2, Damage 4. The next enhancement is Augury Uplink, Adeptus Custodes models only. The bearer has a 5+ Feel No Pain ability. This is the best enhancement in the detachment for survivability. Augury Uplink can be put on a normal Custodes character or a character Dreadnought. The Telemon Heavy Dreadnought is the best target for this enhancement. It is the toughest Dreadnought with toughness 10, 12 wounds with a 2-up save and 4+ invulnerable, with the Duty Eternal ability giving the Dreadnought -1 to incoming damage. Adding a 5+ Feel No Pain to a Telemon makes it a nightmare to destroy with low AP, damage 1 to 2 weapons. Anti-tank can still kill it with enough dedicated fire. The third enhancement is Honored Fallen, Adeptus Custodes Vehicle model only. While a friendly Adeptus Custodes infantry or Adeptus Custodes mounted unit is within 6 inches of the bearer, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, reroll a hit roll of 1. Now on to our less than good enhancements. Giving reroll hits to infantry and mounted sounds good. Then we look at the rest of the rules in the detachment. The points price for vehicles and dreadnoughts, combined arms list and Solar Spearhead are not the best use of the rules or the points. Infantry are best used to supplement the detachment weaknesses in the Solar Spearhead. If the points are there, and we do have some infantry or mounted in the list, Honored Fallen targets mounted units too. We could use this in a Virtus Praetor heavy list. The final enhancement is Veteran of the Cataphracti, Adeptus Custodes Infantry or Adeptus Custodes Mounted model only. In your movement phase, select one Adeptus Custodes vehicle or one Adeptus Custodes mounted unit within 6 inches of the bearer until the start of your next command phase. That unit is eligible to shoot in a turn in which it fell back. The only time I would take this enhancement is as a points filler, or we are running a jet bike heavy list. The Virtus Praetors and vehicles need to be within 6 inches of the bearer, and you can only select one unit. Luckily, the Dreadnoughts are fast in the Solar Spearhead. I would rather Honored Fallen for reroll the hits of 1. It is an aura ability, so it can target multiple friendly units. There are uses for this. I would rather one of the other 3 enhancements over this enhancement. Next is the 6 stratagems for the Solar Spearhead. There are some really good stratagems for Custodes vehicles in this detachment. The first stratagem is Emperor's Vengeance for 1 CP, used in the fight phase. This can be used on Adeptus Custodes unit. This will give the unit a 4+ fight on death. If it is used on a Walker unit, a Dreadnought unit, we will have a 3+ fight on death instead. A 3+ fight on death for a Walker Dreadnought is a great stratagem. The Dreadnoughts are already imposing in the fight phase, now they can fight on death on a 3+. Yes, that does mean we can use Emperor's Vengeance on the Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought each time it is destroyed. The target is an Adeptus Custodes unit. We can use this on infantry or mounted. Those models will fight on a 4+ though. You have to have the Walker keyword to fight on a 3+. The next stratagem is Flawless Construction for 1 CP. We can use this in the opponent's shooting phase or the fight phase on one Adeptus Custodes vehicle. Until the end of the phase, each time attack that targets a model in your unit, if the strength of that attack is greater than the toughness of your unit, subtract 1 from the wound roll. The best defensive stratagem in the detachment. -1 to the wound roll of incoming attacks is a great defensive buff. The incoming attacks do need to be higher strength than the target's toughness. The Wardens have the exact same ability on their datasheet. Not as useful on the Venerable Land Raiders, but very useful on the lower toughness vehicles like Dreadnoughts and Grav Tanks. It is only 1 CP. I have seen this -1 to the wound roll for 2 CP and other factions. Next up is an interesting stratagem, Punishment Inescapable. In our shooting phase, one Adeptus Custodes unit until the end of the phase. Ranged weapons ignore cover. Those ranged weapons can also ignore any modifiers to their ballistic skill or their hit roll. We could use this stratagem every shooting phase on a Grav Tank or Land Raider if we could. I mean, we can, but it will be a major drain on our CP. We have other great vehicle stratagems to spend our CP on. Ignore hit modifiers can be useful against smoke or other -1 to hit abilities. It also ignores the -1 to the hit roll from being damaged or within engagement range of enemy models. What we want it for is the ignore cover ability. AP3 las cannons or blaze cannons with ignore cover is very nice. The next stratagem is Relentless Persecution for 1 CP. We can use this in the movement phase just after Adeptus Custodes vehicle from your army has advanced. This can only be used on Adeptus Custodes Vehicles. This will give that vehicle advance and shoot. If that unit has the walker keyword, it can advance, shoot, and charge. Advance and shoot on the Caladius grav tanks or the Venerable Land Raiders will keep the enemy from putting too many units in the shooting lanes. Advance, shoot, and charging Dreadnoughts will put the fear into enemy units within 20 inches. Dreadnought speed and overall usefulness is night and day in the Solar Spearhead Detachment. Another really good stratagem for 1 CP. Now you can see why we can't spam punishment and escapable all game. We do have other really good stratagems we want to use. Shield Host has a 15-inch average charge range for the Telamon Dreadnought. Solar Spearhead is 22 inches with this stratagem. The only stratagem in all 6 of our detachments that can give a unit advance and charge. We do have the Blade Champions to give advance and charge, but it's only to that attached unit once per game. This gives our Dreadnoughts an advance and charge stratagem all game. It does have to be a walker or Dreadnought to advance and charge, otherwise it's just advancing and shooting our vehicles. If only we could move through ruins instead of going around them. This is where Unstoppable comes in. For 1 CP, used in your movement phase or the charge phase, on 1 Adeptus Custodes vehicle or 1 Adeptus Custodes mounted unit from your army, until the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit makes a move, it can move through terrain features. Unstoppable for 1 CP is a really fun stratagem. Send our Dreadnoughts or other vehicles smashing through terrain. This can be used in the movement phase and the charge phase. The charge phase means we can wait until after we've moved the vehicle unit before we use this stratagem. Maybe we roll bad on the advance and we would rather save the CP for another stratagem. Unstoppable was able to move vehicles through enemy models too. It only allows movement through terrain features now. Still a great fun stratagem that keeps the opponent on their toes. The last stratagem is Wrathful Advance for 1 CP in the fight phase just before an Adeptus Custodes unit from your army piles in. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit makes a pile-in move, it can move up to D3 plus 3 instead of D3 inches. The most situational stratagem in the detachment. I would be more behind the stratagem if it was a pile-in and consolidate. I would even rather consolidate instead of pile-in. We can use this to get a few extra inches on a pile-in to tag another enemy unit or objective. The D3 plus 3 is what makes this unreliable. Pile-in 6 inches would have been much better. I can't complain too much. There is a lot of really good stratagems for vehicles in this detachment. Those are all the rules for the Solar Spearhead Detachment. Let's move on to some more list building for the Solar Spearhead Detachment. When I build a list, I try to select units for my following unit types: primary, utility, and attack. Now these are not a keyword we will find on the datasheet. These are my own category of units when I build a list. Primary to pressure objectives and score primary points. Utility to score secondary points, as well as add some buffs or abilities to help out my other units. Finally, my attack units, the units I will use to attack the enemy scoring and damage dealing units. These may seem simple, but they can make a difference between a bad list and a good list. Too many attack units and we do not have enough primary units to hold objectives to score, then we lose the game on points. Not enough utility, we may have a good primary score, but still lose by a lot from no secondary scoring. Each faction and detachment will require a different mix of these units. It is not always a jammed 33% of our total points in each of these categories kind of fix. It varies from faction to faction and detachment to detachment. The Adeptus Custodes are a very elite army, only being beat by the Knights. This means we will not have a lot of units or even models on the board. Learning what each of our units are capable of is very important to the Custodes. We do not want to charge 2 units into a target, overkill it with the first unit only to have wasted our second unit's activation, or the opposite, charge 1 unit in where 2 would be needed to take out that enemy unit. I know some of the 10,000 do not like to use the Psychono units, but I promise you, if you start to include 2 units instead of 0, stick with it for a few games, you will notice a difference in your points for the better. Solar Spearhead is built different than our other detachments. The Dreadnoughts will all be playing 2 different roles, primary and attack. We can take Venerable Land Raider, Caladius Grav Tanks, or Canis Rex to add some reliable anti-tank to a list. Those would be attack units. There is not much rule support for Custodes infantry. The Dreadnoughts are used to clear and hold objectives. Solar Spearhead wants to push past the objectives to eventually put pressure onto the enemy deployment zone. We want to use our cheap Psychono units for utility and scoring points. Here are some unit examples for our primary unit role. First up is the Telamon Heavy Dreadnought. The Telamon Heavy Dreadnought is the toughest Dreadnought we have. Throw the Augury Uplink Enhancement on one to make it a Custodian Warden-like unit. Toughness 10, 12 wounds with a 2-up save and a 4+ invulnerable, with a -1 to the incoming damage ability. We can run multiple Telamon Dreadnoughts. Without the 5+ Feel No Pain from the Augury Uplink, they are not as tanky. One Telamon is almost auto-included in many Solar Spearhead lists as a primary scoring unit. Next is the Prosecutors. Yes, the Humble Prosecutor unit is a primary scoring unit. The Prosecutors are 2 OC per model, while being our cheapest unit. Why use an expensive Dreadnought to hold an objective when we can use a Prosecutor unit instead? They are great for holding objectives after the threats near the objective have been dealt with. Take some Psychotic units in your Solar Spearhead list. It frees up our vehicles to run around the board and destroy stuff. The last primary unit is of course the Custodian Wardens. These are the best of the best when it comes down to holding primary. They have the normal toughness 6, 3 wounds, 2+ save and 4+ invulnerable Custodes infantry profile. Their 2 datasheet abilities give them even more survivability. A once per game 4+ Feel No Pain in any phase, on top of an all game -1 to the wound roll if the incoming attack strength is higher than the Warden's toughness 6. The Blade Champion with Warden's unit is still an option as a tough Custodes unit to hold objectives even in the Solar Spearhead Detachment. The next unit role is secondary and utility units. The Witchseekers are a great option to score some early secondary points. They have a 6-inch scout ability. I use it to move them towards the center of the board. Why use an expensive Dreadnought to do a secondary action when a cheap Witchseeker unit can do it instead? They can cause a battle shock test to one enemy unit. It won't be game changing, but it can turn off some enemy stratagems or turn off some enemy OC. Another good unit for secondary scoring is 2 model Alaris units. These smaller units of Alaris make great units for secondary scoring. Not much rule support. I would take these in a unit of 2 as a utility unit only. We could put a unit of 2 in strategic reserves, then deep strike them down to complete a secondary action like behind enemy lines or establish locust or even sabotage. They can then use golden light at the end of the opponent's turn to do it all over again. Last up, of course, is the Imperial Assassins. The Calidus Assassin is the best assassin we could take for secondary scoring. The others are more damage oriented or lack the same utility. There are 2 things that give the Calidus the edge. First, it has a 12-inch aura of +1 CP to enemy stratagems. Second, she has a return to reserves at the end of the opponent's turn ability. The Warhammer community likes to call these abilities uppy downy. She has lone operative and fights first to combine with those 2 abilities. She even has the deep strike ability. Currently at 100 points, she can be pricey and she dies to a stiff breeze. If played right, she can cripple the opponent's CP management and score us buckets of points. Next up, we have the attack units. Our first unit is the Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought. Most of our attack units will be able to fill a primary unit role as well. We want to use the Dreadnoughts to clear objectives and then hold those objectives against the counterattack. Our next turn, we keep pushing into the enemy lines. The Venerable Contemptor can shoot some melter shots, then bash some heads in with a 5 attacks, hitting on a 2+, Strength 12, AP 2, Damage 3 melee weapon. The Venerable Contemptor ability on yielding agents is what makes this Dreadnought perfect for holding primary objectives and attacking enemy units. If it is destroyed, the first time it will stand back up on a 2+ with D6 wounds remaining. Monophase list will have a very hard time dealing with these if they can only take them out with either shooting or melee. I like to call these my zombie Dreadnoughts. Next up is the Virtus Praetors. The Virtus Praetors can be taken in the Solar Spearhead list to give it some extra speed. We do have some rule support that can buff the jet bikes. For the most part, the Dread Knights and the Grav Tanks / Land Raiders are the attack units in the Solar Spearhead list. If the detachment rule worked on mounted units, we would see more of these jet bikes in a Solar Spearhead list. The Achilles and the Galatus Contemptor Dreadnought. The Achilles is more of an anti-tank Dreadnought, the Galatus is more of an anti-elite infantry Dreadnought. The Galatus is the only Contemptor Dreadnought with a 2+ save and 4+ invulnerable, while the other 2 Contemptor Dreadnoughts have a 2+ save with a 5+ invulnerable. The Galatus also has a -1 to the wound roll in the fight phase, no matter the strength of the incoming attack. These are a nightmare for enemy infantry units in the fight phase. Not as popular as the Telamon or the Venerable Dreadnought, Either of these are a great choice in a Solar Spearhead list, filling the attack unit role. Last up, we have the mighty Caladius Grav Tank. The Caladius Grav Tank is a Custodes tank we can get from the Forge World. There are some proxy models to be found out there as well. It is an amazing looking tank with an even better profile. The Venerable Land Raider is our Codex tank. This is the Custodes tank. We can use a Land Raider for some anti-tank. They just don't really stack up to how reliable the Grav tanks are. Lethal hits against monsters and vehicles as well as twin-linked is what makes these so much better than the Land Raider or even Canis Rex at long-range anti-tank shooting. First, let's take a look at a few 1000 point lists for the Solar Spearhead. The first 1000 point list is Threat Overload. Our Warlord is a Telemon Heavy Dreadnought with the Augury Uplink Enhancement, Storm Cannon, and the Fist Weapon. For the other characters, we do have a Contemptor Achilles Dreadnought with the Adamantine Talisman to give it some extra punch in melee. Other datasheets, we do have 2 Venerable Contemptor Dreadnoughts with the Multi-Melta and the Combat Weapon, 2 units of 4 Prosecutors. For my allied unit, I do have an Armiger Helverin for a little bit of anti-tank shooting and anti-elite shooting. The second 1000 point list is a all Codex list. This one comes to 995 points. The Warlord is a Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought with the Augury Uplink Enhancement. For my other character, I do have a Shield Captain on Dawn Eagle Jetbike with a Salvo Launcher. Battle line is 4 Custodian Guard, 3 Spears, 1 Vexilla, Shield, and Misericordia in that unit. The other datasheets, I do have another Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought with the Multi-Melta and the Combat Weapon, a Venerable Land Raider with those Godhammer Las Cannons, the Hunter Killer Missile. That can be a taxi for the Custodian Guard. Once again, a unit of 4 Witchseekers and a unit of 4 Prosecutors. This list comes to 995 points. The final 1000 point list, I've just named this one simply the Forge World list. Our Warlord is a Telemon Heavy Dreadnought with the Augury Uplink Enhancement. The other datasheets, 2 Venerable Contemptor Dreadnoughts with the Multi-Melta and the Combat Weapons, 2 units of 2 Virtus Praetors with the Salvo Launchers, a unit of 4 Witchseekers, and finally a unit of 5 Prosecutors to hold on to my home objective. This list comes to 1000 points exactly. Those were 3 Solar Spearhead lists using these different units from our unit roles to build a list that can score points as well as take on enemy units. Next up is a 1500 point Solar Spearhead list. I've named this list Almost All Codex. My Warlord and the only Forge World unit is a Telemon Heavy Dreadnought with the Augury Uplink Enhancement, a Storm Cannon, and the Telemon Fist Weapon. For my other character, I do have a Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought with the Honored Fallen Enhancement with a Multi-Melta and Combat Weapon. Battle line, I do have a unit of 5 Custodian Guard, 4 Guardian Spears with 1 Vexilla, Misericordia, and Shield in that unit. For the other datasheets, we do have another Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought with the Multi-Melta and Combat Weapon, a Venerable Land Raider that has the 2 Godhammer Las Cannons, the Hunter Killer Missile, along with some other anti-infantry guns. This Land Raider is going to be the transport for a Custodian Guard. A unit of 3 Virtus Praetors with the Hurricane Bolters, and another unit of 2 Virtus Praetors with the Hurricane Bolters. Finally, a unit of 4 Witchseekers and a unit of 4 Prosecutors. That's my 1500 point list, and it comes to 1500 points exactly. We will finish the list with some 2000 point list. Our first list is a 2000 point version of my Threat Overload. My Warlord is a Telemon Heavy Dreadnought with the Augury Uplink. Other characters, a Contemptor Achilles Dreadnought with the Adamantine Talisman Enhancement. Other datasheets is 3 Caladius Grav Tanks with the Twin Arachnus Heavy Blaze Cannons, a unit of 2 Virtus Praetors with the Hurricane Bolters, 3 Venerable Contemptor Dreadnoughts with the Combi Bolter and Combat Weapon, a unit of 4 Witchseekers, and a unit of 5 Prosecutors. That brings this list up to 1995 points. My next 2000 point Solar Spearhead list is Solar Rex, and this list has seen some changes since Canis Rex has gone up in some points. The list comes to 1995 points. Warlord once again is the Telemon Heavy Dreadnought with the Augury Uplink Enhancement to give him that 5+ Feel No Pain. Other character is a Contemptor Achilles Dreadnought with the Adamantine Talisman, giving him some extra attacks, strength, and damage. The other datasheets, we do have 2 Caladius Grav Tanks with the Heavy Blaze Cannon, 3 of my Zombie Venerable Contemptor Dreadnoughts with the Combi Bolter, Multi-Melta, and the Combat Weapon, 2 units of 4 Witchseekers for some utility scoring, finally for my allied unit a Calidus Assassin for some more scoring, and Canis Rex for some killing. That's my new Solar Spearhead list using Canis Rex as an Imperial ally. It comes to 1,995 points. My last list is a recent list, the Grav Raiders. This comes to 2,000 points. Warlord, once again, that Telemon heavy Dreadnought with the Augury uplink enhancement. No other characters in this list. Battle line is 2 units of 5 Custodian Guard, 4 Guardian Spears, 1 Vexilla, Misericordia, and Shield in those units. Other data sheets is 1 Caladius Grav Tank with the Twin Arachnus Heavy Blaze Cannon, 2 Venerable Land Raiders with those Godhammer Las Cannons and the Hunter Killer Missile. I don't leave home without my 3 Venerable Contemptor Dreadnoughts, Combi Bolter, Multi-Melta in the Combat Weapon, 2 units of 4 Witchseekers, and a big unit of 9 Prosecutors to hold on to my home objective. Those are my 3 2,000 point list examples for the Solar Spearhead using some of the tips as well as the unit rolls from this video. Let's finish the video with some final thoughts. That was my guide on how to build a Solar Spearhead list. The unit roles are shared for a lot of the units, especially for the Dreadnoughts in a list. Now that the Venerable Land Raider has dropped in points from the September 2025 balance update, they are a lot more viable in a Solar Spearhead list. Including the Venerable Dreadnought, we can make a nearly, if not all, Codex Solar Spearhead list. If you have any questions about Solar Spearhead, throw it down in the comments below. Subscribe for battle reports, list videos, and other Warhammer 40K content. Channel members gain early access to videos and access to the channel Discord. Like always, thanks for watching, thanks for stopping by.